Good morning. Thank you. Thank you very much. Good morning everyone and welcome to the very first, and I hope not the very last, Research Ed Rugby. Using the hashtag Research Ed Rugby, all the words together. We should have made it red dog. But Research Ed Rugby is if you are tweeting. Can you send hands up if you do tweets, please? I love it. Thank you so much. You're such an unusual demographic. Well, we know that everybody can come out on a Saturday to develop your own understanding of accepted education, which means you're fairly special in the first place. So if you could tweet out at Accepted Rugby. Normally when I speak to more mixed audiences and I say to them, hands up, who's on Twitter, you get about 4% response rate. So it's unusual, there's also something very concentrated here. I think it says a lot about what to do with our spare time. This is a slightly different version of Research Ed. Can I also ask you, put your hand up if you've been to another Research Ed before? Okay, that's really substantial, at least I'm talking to you. Welcome back. We must have done something right. To those of you who have never come before, Research Ed is something we started 3 years ago, and we wanted to put together face-to-face conference days where everybody who's involved or affected by educational research could come together and talk about their experience of educational research. Because, and this to me didn't seem a very controversial idea, see me later. But I've been to so many conferences that were solely teachers, and that's fantastic. The teachers need to get to good ideas. And I've been to lots of conferences that were solely academics, and again, that's very important because that's a function. But there was something missing in that ecosystem, and that was forums for all these people to come together in a safe space and discuss their needs and what they were looking for, and also their experiences of research. Because, probably like some of you, my initial experiences of research when I started teaching, say 13, 14 years ago, were actually fairly negative. And I found that whenever somebody wanted to end an argument, they always used the phrase, the research proves this. Yeah, and if you're a teacher who's never engaged with research meaningfully, conversation's over. And it's very difficult for you to respond to that. Well, I thought that wasn't good enough, and I thought there was too much weak research getting into classrooms, and too much great research not getting into classrooms. And so we thought it'd be really useful to bring people together and have a day where you had every reason to speak, if you were, whether you were a teacher or a researcher or an academic, as long as you had something interesting and useful to say about your experience in relationship with research. It's been very successful so far, and we've gone around the UK several times in the last few years, and we've started to go around the world, which is just bizarre. So we were in Melbourne last month, and we're going to Washington in October. We've been to New York, Sydney, and Amsterdam, and Sweden, and so on. But I think that rugby is surely the jewel in the crown of all those experiences. This really was my goal when we started it so many years ago, to come to rugby. And I'm not kidding, rugby's lovely. Isn't it pretty? If you live good work here, I'm very jealous. You have football pitches and rugby pitches, all that. Sorry, he said much. Basketball. We live in interesting times in education. Isn't it always an interesting time? Well, this is an interesting time. I don't know if you noticed there was a referendum a couple of days ago. I don't know if you've been following that. Now, whether you're elated or deflated by the outcome, and I won't go any further than that, because as a Scot, I know how much these things can divide people. One thing I will say is that there has never been a more important time for people, not just teachers, but for people to be as evidence-informed as possible. I won't mention £250 million, which I'm sure is going to happen any day now. But in education, it's absolutely vital that we are as evidence-informed as possible. I don't think, and happily Dylan William agrees, or rather I agree with him, that teaching is an evidence-based profession. I think it is an evidence-augmented profession. I think that there is a great deal of structured, intelligent support that can be given to the practice of teaching and leading and running schools. I think we need to do as much of it as possible. I don't think every teacher needs to be a researcher. I think every teacher needs to be as engaged as they can be with research, whether that's at the point of training or just throughout their career. And some people will become very engaged. I know, for example, in the room today, there are many teachers or school leaders or people who work in schools who are very research engaged, and some of you might be involved in research projects, and some of you might be research leads for your school, for example. And I think that's a really, really healthy sign of an emerging professional ecosystem of teachers, and that's very, very exciting. That's something that's quite new, and I think that's been catalysed by social media, by internet, and so on, that people can now talk to each other in ways they never could before. 20 years ago, if you had a good idea, the furthest it could reach was probably the back of your classroom, or if you were lucky, the staff room. Now you can have a good idea, and somebody in the Ukraine is reading 5 minutes later. And I love that about the way we become interconnected in teaching communities. And I love the way that teachers have spontaneously decided to re-professionalise themselves from the ground up without waiting to be told to do so by anybody else. I think that's incredibly healthy. And whatever answers we come up with as teachers, and however we develop our practice in our profession, I think that is a sign of a newly mature teaching profession, and I think that's a very, very wonderful thing. I would also close a couple of things for you. As I said, the hashtag is research for rugby. If there's a fire, we will do somewhere. There's coffee, tea being served, there's lunch being served, it's all inclusive. It's the deal of a lifetime today. The speakers are fantastic. Jude and Stephen have put together an amazing day. They asked if they could put on a research check here. Normally I've got about 5 minutes spare in the day to blink, so I said yes, go for it. We've been looking at it from afar, but they've done an amazing job of putting together some of the greatest and best voices in teaching and education in the UK today. I'm especially astonished that those here on a Saturday, as usual. I'm especially astonished that after so many education conferences this week, people have still managed to come to this. Has anyone here today been at another education conference this week? Oh my God, that's terrifying. Don't tell your head teachers. They'll ask you to do more in school. But as without further ado, I'll be talking later on today, but there's a huge number of speakers who are absolutely fantastic. I hope you have a wonderful day, you pick your own session, you build the day that you want, and you develop your own professional development in any shape, direction, or form that you want. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you also to the speakers. None of them have been paid. Nobody's been paid for this, which may be a surprise to some of the speakers. Boards of the walking out here. Dave Alison, Peacock, leaves the meeting, not at all. Everyone here has given their time generously because they believe in supporting people within the profession. That says a great deal about the education and teaching profession. It's the most altruistic, most generous profession I've ever been involved in. Although to be fair, my previous profession was running nightclubs in Soho. So to be honest with you, it's pretty stark. It's nicer than that. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce to you one of the greatest voices in education. We're extremely proud, honoured and lucky to have her here today, Dave Alison. Please give it up.
Great to be here, great to spend a Saturday talking about something I'm really passionate about, which is children. I spent all of my career trying to make a difference, as so many of the rest of us in this room have done. And engaging with research, gathering evidence, publishing stories, telling stories of how we can improve what goes on in school has been what has driven me all the way through. And so today I'm going to share with you some stories about the work that I've done, the work that's been published under the title of Learning Without Limits. And I suspect also, because people are worried about assessment at the moment, that will be something that we'll focus on in a little bit more detail. The core principles behind Learning Without Limits are these. And they're easily said, but to build trust in a classroom, to build trust where young people can share ideas and not sneer at each other, where teachers can feel brave enough to try new things, is really fundamentally important. And as a school leader and across the system, If we can build trust, then amazing things can happen. So part one, very easily lost. Co-agency. If you have a sense of agency, a sense of voice, a sense of purpose, a sense that your ideas will be listened to, even if people don't agree with them, that feels very elevating and empowering. Co-agency, children and teachers, teachers and children, teachers working with other teachers, takes that even further. And then really crucially, the notion of inclusion. And I've been saying recently that I'm really very worried that actually inclusion could very well be the victim of a market-led system. Because once we start to look at mass academisation, who includes the inconvenient schools? Who includes the schools that aren't full, the schools that aren't economically viable, the schools that have high mobility? And how do we include the young people coming into our schools who are more expensive to look after? Inclusion is absolutely, from my point of view, fundamentally important. So these are the research texts, and as this is a research conference, I just want to reflect on this for a moment. The first study, in the red, Learning About Limits, was published in 2004. Now this study was a study of primary and secondary colleagues, and I was one of the teachers studying for this book. There were 9 of us. And we were all teachers who answered an advert in tests at the time, calling for people who wanted to come and research classrooms where the idea that ability is fixed could be challenged. So the idea that it was reliable and sensible and desirable to be able to define each individual child or student so exactly that we could put a number metaphorically on their forehead. They were looking for teachers who were saying, actually, I think it might be a bit more complicated than that. And I always thought it was more complicated than that because assessment is something that, well, it is very complex. And the idea that we just find the number and then the next time we look at the child, we ought to make the number bigger because that's the way we justify our performance, feels to me very, very wrong. So I took part in that research. And as I say, there were 9 of us, both primary and secondary colleagues from very different schools. And the way that it worked was that we would have external researchers coming into our classrooms. They would typically, the researcher that was assigned to me, she would typically say she'd come in an afternoon, so I'd been teaching all morning. And then over lunch, the researcher would arrive, all, bright as a daisy, and then she'd be saying, what's going on this afternoon? Then she'd come and be in my classroom all afternoon. And she would observe me, she would talk to the children, she'd take some of the children out, she would look at my planning, and then at the end of the afternoon, when you could wipe the floor with me, then she would say, okay, let's sit down now and reflect on what's going on today. So then we would do that, and there'd be an hour and a half interview. And then a couple of weeks later, a transcript of everything that I'd said would arrive. I'm thumping through the letterbox, and I could never bear to really look at it, because you've never seen a transcript of yourself talking, you'll realise that what seems like really, really coherent and intelligent conversation turns into gibberish very quickly when you put it on the page. Then we would go to the university several times a term. This research took place over 2 years. And we would all discuss as a group and individually with the researchers what they thought they'd seen, and they would test what they thought they'd seen in relation to our perceived sense of what was going on in the classroom. So a huge privilege to have somebody watching what you're doing, but also testing with you the ideas and the thinking behind what's going on. And so those 3 principles I just shared with you, the trust, the co-agency, the inclusion, those principles emerged from those extensive research interviews and observations. And they were principles that applied to each of the 9 teachers in very different settings. All of us, teachers who were seeking to challenge the notion that ability is fixed. The second study, Creating Learning Without Limits, what happened was that I was deputy head when the first study was done, and then I took on my first headship. And I say my first headship, my only headship, I'm not doing another one. I've been at school now 12 years. I took on my headship and I went to a school that was in special measures. And although at the time I didn't consciously do this, now I realise I was looking for a school that in effect was in the bottom set. So a school where the perception was that there was failure, a school that had been written off, in order that I guess I could say, well, maybe, just maybe, we could make this better. And we did, and we started to make it better really quickly. And I'm saying we because it was about a team, it was about everybody working together. But the researchers in Cambridge, they said, oh, this is interesting, Alison. Now you've gone to a school that's in special measures, will you now be applying the principles of not labelling viability? Will you be applying that across your whole school? Will this be a whole school development? We're really interested to research how this is going to take place and how you're going to improve a whole school in the same way that you try to improve your classrooms. Can we come and base research study in your school to study the whole school? And this is where, colleagues, I realise I am a risk taker, because it's one thing as a new head teacher, terrified out of your wits, not knowing what you're doing, but trying to make a good fist of it, to kind of turn up every day. It's another thing to say to a team of researchers from Cambridge, come on down, yes, I will implement all those principles that I said I would implement in my classroom, and now I'll do it at scale within my school. But actually, of course, what I did say was, yes, why don't you come? And by the time they've got their funding together, the wheels kind of move quite slowly. Especially at Cambridge, the wheels move slowly. So by the time they've got their funding together, it was 2005. And actually, as they started their research, we got our first outstanding Ofsted judgment in that first term of the research, which was a relief. That was a help. And the story, the research that was gathered was over a period of time, was not then published until 2012. That's a long time in school life. When you think about it, we run at a real fast pace, don't we, in education? So taking 6 years from the first gathering of the data to when that book was published felt impossibly slow to me. I took the role of an insider researcher, so I kept a leadership journal every week for 18 months. And that leadership journal was based on a reflection of the week that had just gone, and a looking forward to the week that was coming. And these were throughout the whole year. This wasn't just term time. This was 18 months of my work as a school leader. What was this like? Now, what was interesting to me, which was really quite revelatory, and this is what happens when you research something, surprising things emerge, which is the whole point of doing it, isn't it? All the way through my childhood, all the time I've been growing up, Jenny, my younger sister, Jenny is the artistic one, Jenny is the creative one, Alison is the sensible one. So I've got this kind of, Alison is the sensible one identity, Jenny is the artist. But as soon as I started keeping the leadership journal for this period of time, I realised that it was jam-packed with ideas. Every week there would be something which would be about, well, we could try this, or I've heard this, or I've read this, or I've seen this, or this is happening in this classroom, and maybe we could share it to this classroom. So the idea that Jenny was the artist and she was the creative one and I was the sensible one started to turn around in my head. And I gave myself permission to realise that actually leadership that is about ideas is hugely exciting, because leadership that's about ideas believes that things can change, believes that we can make things better. I should have kind of known, because when I was, before I even took up teaching, I had a Saturday job in Woolworths. I used to go into Woolworths on a Saturday. And in the evenings, I used to meet my boyfriend, who is now my husband, and I used to talk about Woolworths shelves. I used to talk about the bathroom department where I was responsible for working only on a Saturday. I used to say, I really think they've got the gondolas, they've got the displays wrong, they need to do this, I'm worried about this, I'm worried about that. And he'd say to me, you know, what else do you want to tell me about Woolworths now, can we move on? And still now, there's that whole, he'll say to me occasionally, you're talking as if you're in Woolworths again, trying to work out the shelf. But there's this kind of restlessness about me that says, we need to make things better wherever we are. And now, this book on the right-hand side is about to be published next month. This book is a story of lots of schools that have started to take on the ideas, both primary and secondary, both in this country and abroad. Schools that have started to take on the idea that maybe, just maybe, we should not be labelling children. Absolutely, we should not be labelling children. And what can we do to try and engage in assessment that listens, rather than constantly seeks to judge first? So this book that's about to come out, for me, I feel most proud of. I think, I've had 2 daughters and a book now, is how I feel about it. Because writing the story of ideas about assessment, ideas about not labeling children, feels like it really matters. Everything comes down to excellent teaching. When it came to trying to improve the school, when I first went to Robson, what was really clear was, yes, it's great that you can improve the environment, of course it is, because the environment is another way of teaching, but the people that interact with the children are fundamentally important. One of the teachers, only one of the teachers, but one of the teachers when I got there, and the school had been in special notice for 3 years, one of the teachers, it became very evident to me, needed to leave. And this was because she did not like children. And I find this a fundamental drawback. I do think if you don't like children and you work in school, that there's a problem. One of the children in this teacher's class came to see me, her mother came to see me very early on in my headship. And she said, this school is massively underestimating my daughter. I said, oh, tell me more. And she said, my daughter Rebecca, she's in year 4. She is in a group in English called the full stops. The full stops were the bottom group. You could raise to the dizzying heights of the exclamation marks if you did really well in English. But Rebecca was in the full stops. Without any irony from the teacher, she was in the full stops. And her mother said, Rebecca is capable of so much more. Now, interestingly, Rebecca at that time had a lazy eye. Her brother was in year 6. And he was a member of the awkward squad, so he was one of the ones that would run out of school, one of the ones that would throw chairs, and he had found it very difficult to learn to read. And I suspect, in a school that was a failing school, the lazy judgment, the easy judgment was to think, well, Rebecca is cast with the same mould, and Rebecca doesn't look like she's going to be capable of very much, and Rebecca is best suited to the full stops. This is Rebecca at Imperial College 2 years ago. When the teacher that needed to leave left, oh happy day, we appointed a new deputy, Simon, and he was really passionate about teaching maths and science. I'm not saying that Rebecca achieved this huge accolade at Imperial College because of what she did in year 5 and 6 at school. Although on the other hand, I am saying, had she not been noticed, had her capacity to learn been extended, she would not have done well in science, which would have meant when she went to secondary school, quite likely, she would have been placed in a group that meant that she didn't have the same opportunities. And for me, the story of Rebecca constantly reminds me that when we keep the door open for every child because we need to, amazing things can happen. But it has to be based on excellent teaching and teachers with excellent subject knowledge who enable our children to flourish. I know you can't see the slides very well this morning, but I just want to sum up just this part by saying the research that we've done through Learning Without Limits is amplified by other research studies. But essentially what we're saying increasingly is that if we can, as teachers, reduce our tendency to look at a child and think you've only got so much that you can offer, and be much more open to the idea that whatever we provide in terms of the quality of the learning experiences that we offer, and of course it's not just in school, of course what happens at home matters crucially as well, then we can start to move down the track of thinking about transformability. The idea that what we do matters means that our jobs are fundamentally important. And you know what, after yesterday's result, I think our jobs are more important than they were a week ago. Because we will be the people in our profession that will need to keep on keeping the door open for young people and enabling them to see that we need not to rank each other and judge each other. It needs to be about tolerance and understanding and high expectation. So in a school, as I've outlined, where we tried to do these things, we stopped ability grouping, we don't label children, and we didn't use levels. And what happens when you become a school like that is that parents who have children with additional needs suddenly seek you out. Because of course, if you are the parent of a child with additional needs, you want somewhere for your child to go where they can flourish. So a parent came to see me, our school was full, we were oversubscribed. She came to see me to say, Mrs. Peacock, we would really love our daughter Mary to come to your school. We didn't send the rest of our children to your school. We didn't choose your school for the rest of our children. They're at the school down the road. But we'd like Mary to come to your school. So straight away I'm kind of thinking, well, Okay, so I said, well, tell me about Mary. And Mum started to talk to me about her daughter. She said that Mary was prone to huge tantrums, that she would need to have a padded room, that when she had a tantrum, she was likely to hurt herself and hurt people around her. She would need full-time one-to-one, and that she would thrive in routine. And it is at this point, colleagues, that however much you promote the notion of inclusion, you kind of go, oh, this sounds like it's going to be a bit difficult. So I said to Mum, well, let's go and have a look around the school. So we went around the school, and our school is a very vibrant place. It's very creative. Lots of children learning outdoors as well as indoors, all kinds of things. We came back to my office and I said, well, you see, if your daughter really thrives on calm and routine, maybe our school is not the best place for her. And Mum said, yes, but I think you would love her. And that kind of, I just thought, okay. So she came into our school, and she arrived in our reception class, not having been in nursery at all. She enjoyed all kinds of aspects of learning. She had one kind of major meltdown in the autumn term. The only thing she wouldn't do was any kind of writing. So we couldn't get her to do any mark making at all. We couldn't get her to do swirling with big paints or tiny little images or using shaving foam or even creating images in sand or doing anything else. Until in February she drew this. So she'd gone from September right through to February, no mark making, not even a line anywhere, and then suddenly this was produced. Now I know we've got a lot of secondary colleagues in the room, but presumably also many of us may well be parents. If you look at this drawing, you can see for a young child there's a lot of complexity in this drawing, there's a lot of quirkiness in this drawing. For me, one of the things about this drawing is that it's joyful. So the child that we've been told was the child that would have these major meltdowns, needed a special padded room, was very angry, was taken until February to draw us something joyful. And the point for me is, had we required Mary to pick up a pen because we needed her to for assessment purposes, had we required her to do that in September, I think we probably would have needed the padded room that we've been told that we would need. The reality was, within a foundation stage, early years setting, we built the trust that enabled Mary to come to the point where one day she picked up the whiteboard and the pen and drew this. And that's the start of her being able to show us what she could do. Because it's not the first time that Mary has drawn a picture. Clearly, it's just the first time that she let us see that she could draw a picture. And we do tend, as a profession, to think it's all about us. We do tend to think all of the learning that matters happens in our schools and in our classrooms, and that's the learning that we need to measure and quantify and judge. What Mary is showing us is, I can do this, but I'm going to wait until the time is right when I think you might like to see what I can do. And I don't know what the stimulus was that day that caused them to roll. This is what she drew when she was in Year 1. This is Mary as a superhero, and there's a whole page of writing that goes with this. You know, she's a very, very artistic child. She's also a child who sees the world in a very different way. And she enriches our school because of that. She's now in our Year 4 class. And, excuse me, we're studying some history, and she chose to create a timeline with all kinds of very, very detailed drawings that she then started to stick up all around the edges of the classroom. And in the same way that we could have utilised the padded room by saying to Mary, you've got to pick up your pen on the first day of school, we could have said, couldn't we, sorry, I'm the teacher, I'm the boss, I'm the one that says you're allowed to put things up on the wall. Or we allow a child who learns in a different way to share her learning with everybody else in the way that she knows best by creating really detailed drawings and then putting them up on the wall chronologically, because that's her making meaning of the history that we're teaching. So what I'm saying is, learning without limits, the research we're doing for learning without limits is enabling us to understand that learners have different identities, and we need to be able to allow learners to flourish. They don't all have to be in our own image. One of the things that we established in the school very quickly was the notion of democracy and voice. And increasingly, building on the research of people like Neil Mercer, Robin Alexander, and others, I've come to recognise the power of dialogue. That dialogue linked to thought is absolutely fundamental. The point is, if you don't ask people's opinions and you don't act on them and you don't genuinely want to know what people think, then when you ask them in the classroom to tell you something about their learning, why would they bother? Because if they're in a culture where they're not normally listened to, they'll play the game. So the culture when I first arrived at my school was one of, in year 5 and 6 certainly, was one of don't show any effort. Don't show that you're having to try. Because the cool thing when I got there was to look as though you either could do it or you couldn't. If you could do it, respect. If you couldn't do it, don't show any effort, because that's kind of good. So to change that round to a culture of challenging yourself and being challenged by your teacher is what now drives the culture in our school. And when you read books, people like Daniel Willingham talking about why don't students like school, well often they don't like school because they don't engage, they don't have to really think. And there's a real satisfaction about challenging yourself, but the culture has to be right. So we started by ensuring that people knew that they were going to be listened to. We also, I'm a primary head. It's really important for young children, but I actually think it's really important for older children as well, to experience a rich curriculum that is as open as it can be, because the more open the curriculum, the more opportunities children have to surprise us and themselves with what they might learn. And when Michael Gove started talking about the new history curriculum, the primary school was going to be the furthest away, we thought in our school, let's do something to try and bring history to life. So we built this Celtic roundhouse, which is on our field, and inside there's a fire pit, and there's a space where the children can go. But this is not all about being, I resist this notion of polarisation in education. This is not about being a progressive head teacher. This is about providing an environment where the children learn Celtic myths. They rehearse those Celtic myths, and there's an oral tradition through the school now, where the older children tell the myths to the younger children. There are paintings on the inside which the children have done using natural guides, learning about how the Celts lived. It's not because the Celtic hut of reality would not have doors on it. On the other hand, we're in Pottsville, we didn't want anybody to move in permanently. So sometimes we do have to kind of compromise. This notion of dialogue building cognition, this is really, I think, fundamentally important. We've begun to take on the maths mastery approach. Some of our teachers visited Shanghai 2 years ago, and what they were really impressed there about was the fact that teachers had so much time to really reflect on their teaching on a daily basis, often in teams, often teaching a maths lesson they may have taught 10 times before, but still going over it line by line, detail by detail, in terms of how can I make this better? Engaging in lesson study, really trying to hone their pedagogy to the highest quality. And within that, also, the students within those classrooms really needing to explain their thinking. Now, this really resonated with the way that we've already been working at Roxham. And so now within our mathematics curriculum, even with our very youngest children, the expectation is that they will engage in mathematical reasoning and explain their thinking. And unfortunately, today the technology won't allow, but I could show you a film of very young children, 6 years old, talking about mathematics and talking about why the mathematics is intrinsic to them. Not about, I have to do this because Miss Jones says, or I have to do this because when you're in the red group you have to do this, or I have to do this because if I do I'll get a good grade or I'll get my stats to be better. But for me, when I'm 6, because I want to learn for me, because I need to discover it for myself. So dialogue building cognition is, again, really, really important. And if you haven't read Cultural Pedagogy by Robin Alexander, which is an absolute tour de force in terms of how dialogue is the centre of pedagogy in many European classrooms, then I really recommend that to you. Culture and pedagogy. It's about this big. You need something to stand on as well, it's quite helpful. In terms of assessment and collecting information, I told you that we're not using levels, we haven't used levels. When Tim Oates and Dylan William and Mary James decided that they were going to recommend to the Secretary of State that levels should go, someone had heard that we hadn't been using them for a while at Roxton. So anecdotally, apparently, Tim Oates went to Michael Gove and said it's okay, we don't have to have levels, they don't use levels at the Roxton School, Hertfordshire. Which is true. But the reason we have not been using levels was for all the reasons that I've talked to you about. This didn't mean, however, that we weren't keeping a close eye on every single learner. It didn't mean that we didn't have a tracking system. We had a tracking system. The point was, it was in the background. Because the tracking system was exactly for that, for tracking, not for driving learning. And the recent initiative, #LearningFirst, that has started to emerge, has come from the fact that many schools, post-levels, are finding themselves in a situation where, in order to prove that they are doing a good enough job in classrooms, that numbers need to be collected, so-called data drops need to take place. And of course, what happens, if you're going to have 6 data drops in a year, you're going to want those numbers to go up, aren't you? Every time you collect the numbers, they're going to have to increase. Now, the point is, any software you can feed numbers into will change the boxes to green if you give them the right numbers within there. And there are colleagues, I'm sure there's none of you in the room now, but there are colleagues I've spoken to who have gone to their data drop with a list of numbers, and they put the numbers in, and then some of the boxes have stayed amber, or it might have even stayed red. And then, do you know, they sat there and they thought, maybe I didn't quite think that right. And then they put a bigger number in, and guess what happens? The box changes colour. It's amazing. So, on the Assessment Commission, we were really concerned about this. And we did hear from a colleague from a secondary school, deputy head from a secondary school, where he was saying that for every 6 weeks, 4 weeks are spent teaching, 5th week spent revising, 6th week spent testing in order for the data drop exercise to take place. And there's a real question mark. You know, people like Professor Rob Coe are really challenging the notion that anybody could reliably measure the learning that takes place every 6 weeks. But what happens is we get driven by the wrong behaviours. We get driven by feeding the machine. So, for the Assessment Commission, we were really keen to say what we need to do is to build greater expertise about assessment in order that when we do ask colleagues or for ourselves, make a judgment about where we think the child is in their learning, that we can reliably do so, rather than doing it on the basis of what was the number last time. And to really think about the quantity and the necessity of constantly doing that. This is so embarrassingly simple that I just love to share it really, because when we started moving away from levels, we got the new curriculum, and we thought, how are we going to know when we're teaching children really closely, teaching the unit of work, how are we going to know whether they've understood it or not? So at the end of the unit, we just devised a kind of simple piece of paper sheet where we just put the children's initials and say, have they got it? Or have they not got it? Or where are they now? Not for high stakes, for teachers to use in their own classrooms. So this is an example from maths, and then these are translated onto a cohort grid, just on Excel. So instead of spending lots of money on assessment software, we spent that money on a librarian, so that we could improve our reading. And we had an offset last year, very kindly. We've had 9 offsets now since I've been at Roxton. I've been there 12 years, and we've had 9 offset inspections. Anyway, last year we had a maths survey inspection. And the HMI arrived and he said, okay, I want to hear about how you're assessing. So we said what we were doing. We'll be using these kind of grids for each of the units that we felt were crucially important within mathematics. So we looked at the maths curriculum and said, what do we think that children absolutely need to know by the time they leave this year, going on to the next year, and let's record where they are, and let's put it onto here at the end of the year, not every 5 minutes. So we explained this to HMI, he said, okay. So he got out his iPad, he said, I'm going to look at Year 5, he chose a strand of mathematics, he said, I want to see what that looks like in terms of the teacher's recording, how it translates onto this, and what it looks like in books, and what the children can say about it. And that's what we went and did, and everything triangulated. So for us, it was about, we've got the data, every school has the data, all the statutory data remains. The spaces within in terms of how do we know when the children have done their Key Stage 1 sats, where they're going to be in terms of how they're going to get on with Key Stage 2. For us, it was about, can we implement the highest quality teaching using the best subject knowledge that we have from our teachers to enable every child to do as well as they possibly can. And some of our children like Mary, need more assessment because they need more fine-grained understanding from whoever is teaching them, and hopefully that's a teacher and not a teaching assistant, to really understand what can we do next to find a way through for this child. So some children we need to collect more information about in terms of their learning because they're tiny, tiny steps. And other children, actually they're on track. They're embracing the curriculum, they're energized, they're excited, they're working as hard as they can talk about their learning. We're not worried about those children, we're worried about how do we extend children to make sure they're thoroughly excited and extended in their thinking about learning, and how do we support children who find learning difficult. This notion of progress, I think, is still one that needs to be worked through, and obviously we've got Progress 8 coming into secondary, but the national issue around progress, as opposed to fewer things in greater depth, there's a complexity around this. And the notion of posting schools as a number 10 initiative as opposed to a DFE initiative, all of these things need to be played out. And it's no wonder that schools are terrified about assessment, because of course, schools fall or are plated on the basis of how well they do. But for me, the most important way of understanding progress is through knowing what the children are doing. So very simply, an example of that would be, I was talking to Anne Goldsworthy, who's a science specialist, and she was saying she had a Year 4 class. She knew she was going to teach them a unit of work on digestion. So she handed out to every child in the class just the outline of a body. And she said to the children, working on your own, just write on this piece of paper everything you think you know about digestion. And put anything you like in the diagram. And doing a unit of work on digestion, write anything that you think you know. So the children did, and then they handed it back to her. So then what she got was, what was the children's current knowledge? Where were the misconceptions in the children's understanding? Then she taught a unit of work over a number of weeks. When she finished that work, she said to the children, here you are, this is what you thought at the beginning of this piece of work. Have this back, have a look at it. And now what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to record on another piece of paper what you know now. Progress is, I used to think this, now I know this. I used to think this, now I know this. This is so simple, colleagues. But you know what? We've got really, really wound up and worried about if you can't put it on a graph and if you can't put some statistical kind of analysis next to it, it isn't learning. It is, isn't it? I used to think this, now I know this. And as a teacher, you're gathering all of that information to make sure that your teaching is absolutely tailored to the quality of the learning experience that needs to happen. What is it that my children currently think that maybe a little bit off quarter? What is it they need to learn in order that I can teach them as well as I can? Also, just to say, there's a lot of work being done on assessment, and we need to understand all of it. We need to think about multiple choice questions. We need to think about, formative assessment. We need to think about low-stakes summative assessment. All of the things that are coming out in terms of the work that's being done to say these are important aspects of how children recall and remember learning. It's not about, assessment bad, sitting in a Celtic hut good. It's about how do we bring everything together to make sure that children remember really important points in their learning. Because there's no point coming to school if you don't learn anything. So just wanted to kind of point that out there. Also, lots of work has been done, hasn't it? I'm building on the work from Hattie about the importance of feedback. I think that's kind of what happens is we get the headlines of something like Sutton Trust, and we all see, an impact size around the amount of feedback that we offer, so therefore we better provide loads and loads of it. And if we're not careful, we end up writing more than the children in terms of the feedback. Not a good idea, in my view. Equally, I'm not sure there's ever been a halcyon day, because this piece of writing here, and I'm going to stop and read it, but I'll try and see the slide, was written by a 9-year-old boy, and this was published in the 1950s by an HMI who spent his time going around schools. He got into a class. All the children had been asked to write about their father. My father is on the broad side and tall side. My father was a hard-working man and he had a lot of money. He was not fat or thin. His age was about 30 years when he died. He had a good reputation. He is a married man. When he was in hospital, I went to see him every Sunday afternoon. I asked him how he was going on. He told me he was getting a lot better. My father was very kind and gave me and my cousin cigarette cards. He likes doing woodwork, my father, for me, and he likes doing a game of cards now and then, or a game of darts. He chops the wood and saws the planks, and he's a handsome man, but he's dead. He worked in the rubber works before he died. Comment from the teacher at the end of that piece of work: you keep mixing your tenses. In terms of writing, I think writing and assessment of writing, particularly in primary, but presumably in Key Stage 3, this is an issue as well. We are really facing a challenge as a profession, because if we mark the writing according to the interim assessment framework, then the meaning of the writing kind of falls by the wayside, because the majority of the marks are all about the technical skill of the spelling, the punctuation, the grammar, gathering the evidence of that. And there have been moderation meetings across the country where people have sat down and said, well, this child can't possibly be at the expected level because they haven't got evidence of this. You know, really reductive thinking about writing that actually makes it a meaningless exercise. This piece of writing is by Phoebe. She recently left our school a year ago. When she was in Key Stage 1, she didn't achieve level 2. This is a piece of writing from her at the beginning of year 6. And yes, within her writing, she mixes her tenses, like the child we just saw from the 1950s. She also has a turn of phrase that is not grammatically correct. However, when we read her writing, we know what she means. And to say that she is not communicating or that she is not achieving the expected level feels like slapping around the face with a cold fish to me, because actually Phoebe has made progress in Key Stage 1 to being able to write about someone waiting on a platform and how she feels as the train goes. And she talks about things like the train slowly passing by. We know that's not correct, but we know what she means. Her frowned face. Poetic. So we have to be careful as a profession. We have to be really careful. Yes, of course the skills matter. Of course we want the children to be able to communicate effectively, but communicating effectively is also about engaging the reader. And I have been at meetings where I kind of incognito, not as a spy, but I've been at meetings where teachers have spoken about the writing practice in their schools, where they are telling children, this week we're going to be doing this, and on the Monday they do a piece of writing and the teacher takes it in and she gives them feedback. And then on the Tuesday they write again and the teacher takes it in and gives them feedback. And then on the Wednesday they do the writing again and the same thing happens. And on Thursday the same thing happens. On a Friday they do free writing, which is the writing they've been practicing 4 times over. And then on the Friday that's the writing that gets assessed. That is just so soul-destroying, I can't tell you. The book that I have just finished, when I sent the first sort of draft chapters to the editor in October, she gave me some really helpful top-line feedback, which was essentially about pulling all the stories together to have a coherent voice. Because I was worried that different people's stories from their schools, I needed to maintain their integrity. And she said, no, the reader needs to have a coherent voice from you. You need to tame the text. So that's what I did. That was really helpful to me as a writer and inspired me to carry on. And I worked on it and sent in the final version in January. And the editor at that point was really pleased with what I'd sent, and I opened champagne, which was fantastic. Had I, colleagues, done the Monday equivalent of the send your book in to the editor, Monday night they say, well, you could just improve this. Then Tuesday night they say, you could just improve this. By the time we got to Thursday night, Friday, I wouldn't have felt like opening champagne when that book was sent to the publisher, because it wouldn't have been my book. Our children feel like that. So this is really about how do we make sure we maintain both high quality, yes, the rigor, and keep the creativity. In terms of feeding back to families, because we're not using levels and grades all the time, what we are doing is expecting children to be able to be really coherent and talk really well about their learning. The children write their own reports. Just yesterday I was sitting with the children's reports, so year 5 reports, They're extensive documents. The children do this work in school. They document their challenges and their successes, and then the teacher replies directly to the child. And the level of detail that the children are including is impressive. It's not just like, I like maths, it's a great subject, lots and lots of detail. Now, I've got a film that I can show you of learning review. Somewhere I've got a glamorous assistant, where are you? I'll just tell you while I'm getting this on. So Phoebe that we just talked about, who's done that writing, you're going to see Phoebe talking as if it was a learning review meeting, except it will be a monologue. Our learning review meetings are 15 minutes. The child comes in, sits at my computer on the swivelly chair. She talks about her learning review. The parents are there, the teachers are there, and we all discuss with her books her learning so that we can see what we can do to help her next. We're just going to see Phoebe.
My name is Phoebe, and my learning review 2015. My successes. In English, I'm very happy with writing a long story. I try to make it very descriptive and challenge myself. And I love reading my storybook to reception. In successes in science, I'm very happy with remembering all the bones in the body parts and measuring force with a Newton stick. And I find it interesting, and I always learn something new. In PE, I'm always curious of what's going to happen and what we're going to be doing, and I can't wait for lacrosse. My successes in maths, I do love maths, and I find it something that's sometimes challenging, but I usually understand it. And I do maths club that helps me, like after school. Like I feel a bit more confident. And my times tables I'm happy with. In art and D&T, I have learned how to make stockings and biscuits, and we make stress balls, and I'm very happy to do all of those things that I couldn't do before. And in ICT, I can learn all these things I know how to use, and I know how to use Flow that I didn't know how to use before, and board games, we play board games, and that's really fun. My challenges. In English, I sometimes struggle with making the tense right in a story and trying to keep it like the right tense all the way through and stick to one. And sometimes it's hard making sense in the story, like to make it sound right and to make the sentences short and snappy. I'm happy with science. I understand most of it because I always learn something new. But sometimes I struggle with writing down notes, like if I didn't hear something, I try and put it into my own words, like how I could improve it and make sense. In PE, I sometimes find it tricky to challenge myself and sometimes to find a target and like stick with that target, because I do love running and all that, and I really enjoy it. In maths, I usually find problem solving a bit tricky, just to find out which operation to use, and to like help myself to like remember how to solve it and things like that. And we have something called rucksack. We have rucksack time, so we have time to understand it. And sometimes I don't just understand, I try and see where I could go wrong and in a problem, so that helps a lot. My challenge in art and D&T is to follow my plan. So we will make vehicles like out of wood and all these things, and make a plan right before that, and we try and stick to our plan. And in ICT, for my challenges, I'm happy with everything. And if I find something a bit tricky or something, I'll try and just look and see where I've gone wrong, or just like try and help and like see what other people have done and see if like I can prove it. But sometimes it's harder if you really don't know something, and it's a bit tricky sometimes. But yeah, that's all my challenges. And thank you for listening.
So those meetings happen in the autumn term and the spring term of year 5 and year 6. We have normal family consultations and the rest of the year groups. I go to all those meetings, so I listen to what the child's saying, I see what the parent is responding like, what the teacher's saying, I look at the children's work. I do that in the autumn and the spring, and the children write their reports, and we synthesise the main points from the reports to make sure that they go through to the next teacher. There's no point asking someone's opinion if you don't listen to them subsequently. The rigour associated with that means that every single child is engaged in challenging themselves in their learning, and our job is what can we do to find a way through to support every child. I'm now interested in how do we enable that evident zest for learning that Phoebe's got to kind of travel across the system. Because Phoebe was a child, as I said, who didn't get level 2s. And when I talked to her just before she left and asked her about her experience at school, she said to me, and you can see how charming she is, she said to me, well, the thing is, when we were first here, she said, I think we could all say, really, couldn't we, that none of us knew what we were doing. She said, but as years go by, then you think, well, I can do this, we can do this. And now I realise I'm really quite good at things, and I do know things. So she was kind of obviously building herself up. She's going to go into year 7. I would have hated for her to, the week before that conversation I had in the last week of term, for her to have had a piece of paper to say, you failed. I don't think that's the right thing, because she hasn't failed. And her perception of herself as a learner, when she was reflecting back, wasn't, I used to be in the bottom group, I used to be the hedgehogs, or I used to be, it was, as a learner, I feel like I'm in charge of things. Things are exciting, things are getting better. Thank you very much.